Folks, we've opened up the sides, as you can see. If you're a young whippersnapper with a chair, if you want to make way for some more seasoned supporters who might benefit from a chair, that's the Alberta way. So if there's someone young and sprightly sitting down who wants to give up a chair for our seniors, please feel free. There's still a lineup, so we're going to take another 5 minutes or so. I'll be back up here in 5 minutes. right, ladies and gentlemen, it's 2:19, and we were supposed to have started at 2, but there's a lineup. There is a New Democrat brigade in the corner there that's been shouting. I would like to ask my New Democrat friends to go to an NDP meeting and allow us to have our meeting. So I'd like my friends to gently escort out the NDP extremists who have come to disrupt our event. And there's a very important reason for that. And it's because, for God's sakes, don't you know, you're in Alberta. You start a public meeting by saying, "Oh, Canada," not with your NDP chants. So get out of here. While Rachel Notley's dirty tricksters attempt to disrupt our meeting, I would like hotel security to ask Rachel Notley's dirty tricksters to leave, and from the opposite end of the spectrum, allow me to invite someone who knows that in Alberta, we start a public meeting not with your NDP chants, but with "Oh, Canada." Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you Leela Ahir.
Could I please have you take off your hats and rise for "Oh, Canada"? Oh, Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love in all thy sons command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north, strong and free. From far and wide, oh Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land glorious and free. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Oh, Canada, we stand on guard for thee.
That's how you start a rally. That's how you start a meeting in Alberta. Now, I didn't have a chance to outline the agenda because we were interrupted by some of Rachel Notley's dirty tricksters. If there are any other NDP dirty tricksters here tonight, any of Brian Topp's staff or Rachel Notley's staff, any party staff, any people with Nate Rotman's issues management team, anyone who plans to disrupt, I would like you to leave now. And I should say that if you disrupt this event, as you attempted to disrupt our event in Edmonton last week, you will be prosecuted for trespass, as this is private property. So please leave now. And some might even say, you're going to be locked up. Folks, it's a pleasure to see you. We still have people coming in. I think there's some room. I see some room in the back there. If you're a senior citizen who's standing, I'd be grateful if younger pups who are sitting down can make a seat available. Thank you for that. This whole rally will be televised on the Rebel.media. In fact, we're live streaming it right now. I'd like to thank Justin of our team at the back there for live streaming it. Thank you for coming in today. I'm going to have a few words about profanity and placards, and I've already mentioned the NDP issues management staff. They beat me to the punch. They just couldn't wait. And then I'll have a word about chants. And then you'll hear from some amazing speakers, some of whom have come from just around the block, and some of whom have come halfway across the country to be here today. It's 2:24. We're late, but that's because the crowd is large. I want to thank you for coming here. It's minus 18, minus 20. I don't know what it is. It's cold. People here drove or flew from far to be here. I'm grateful for that. You have many other things you could do. The fact that you chose to come to a public meeting about a punitive carbon tax tells me you care about your province. I'm going to talk about chants and placards, but that's actually not what this rally is about. This rally is about Albertans. We're going to hear the speakers are what is really important. We're going to hear from my friend Chad from Oilfield Dads. We're going to hear from Robbie Picard of Fort McMurray, a booster of that city whose house was burnt down. We're going to hear from real Albertans who are hurting, and we're going to hear from political leaders who want to do something about it. And I hope that that will be some of the news that makes it out of here. We had nearly 3,000 people in Edmonton, and we heard from passionate speakers for 2 hours, but 20 seconds of that was used to scold and berate and demean ordinary Albertans from daring to stand up for their families and prosperities. This is what I saw. I took this panoramic picture from the steps of the legislature last week. What I saw were almost 3,000 moms and dads. It was a family-friendly event. There were lots of kids, which was fun, and they weren't those overly politicized robot kids you sometimes see at the left. They were real kids who work on the family farm or worried that how's dad going to pay the bills? It was actually a very touching event, and I came in full of energy, as I sometimes do, but I have to say I left terribly sad when I heard stories, and we'll hear some more today, of how people are hurting. See, I work in exile. I'm in exile in Toronto these days. And so when I hear statistics about Alberta, 9% unemployment, 10.3% unemployment in Calgary, it's just a number. But it's when I come back to Alberta that I see those people, and some people introduce themselves to me, and I say, hey, what do you do? They say, well, I'm not doing nothing right now. And then you have that awkwardness, because Alberta used to be the hardest working, one of the lowest unemployment places in the country, and now it's hurting badly. And that was the story I heard, and that was a story that was willfully ignored by the scolding media, who wanted to shame people for not protesting enough. Can I ask here, who here, either themselves or someone in their close family, has lost their job in the last year and a half? That's what this rally is about. That's what this rally is about. It's not about Peter Mansbridge. It's not about Sandra Jansen. It's about people who are hurting. Now, why wasn't it properly covered? Here's my theories. Why did the media parties scold, not report? Well, I think, number one, to distract from the real message of the rally, which is Albertans don't want this tax. Albertans are hurting. Number two, it's a lot easier to scold rednecks than to talk about the real problems, to avoid questions about what the NDP would call social license. They don't have the consent of the government. There's no social license to bring in the largest tax hike in Alberta history, well, I guess since the income tax. To talk about the cronyism and the handing out of subsidies, to avoid discussions of national unity, of how the Prime Minister is pitting the East against the West, and how Rachel Notley won't stand up for her own province, how Brad Wall is our de facto defender. It's easier to scold Albertans who are hurting than to say, well, hang on a second, does this carbon tax make sense when Donald Trump is the president and Scott Pruitt is his new EPA director, and he doesn't believe in the flim-flam of the UN carbon treaties, and they just appointed Rex Tillerson as Secretary of State? He's the president of Exxon, and does it make sense? Whatever you think of that, even if you disagree with those choices, what insanity is it for Alberta, an oil-producing jurisdiction, to hit ourselves with these carbon taxes when our chief competitor and our number one customer is going the other way? It's insane. Therefore, scold Albertans for not taking their beating quietly enough. Demonize political opponents, marginalize the only media that seems to give a damn sometimes. To discourage anyone else discourage anyone else from getting a big idea that maybe they count. Hey, don't get any big ideas that you can protest Rachel Notley, or you'll be called racist, sexist, anti-gay, homophobic, transphobic, white supremacist. I'm an anti-Semite, apparently. And to use another Marxist word that I know Rachel Notley and her dirty tricksters here, if they're still here, would understand, to maintain the false consciousness that this is all normal, that this is the new Alberta, and we don't like entrepreneurialism or enterprise or growth or oil and gas, and we think it's dirty, and we're all agreeing on this new Alberta. That is a false consciousness that this rally proves as a lie. Because if we hear it from the NDP and their friends in the media, no, this is Albertans like the carbon tax. Everyone's doing it. No, everyone supports it. This rally puts a lie to that 1,000 times over. Here's another picture I took. Here's another picture on the right I took from the stage. It wasn't a stage, the steps of the legislature. And on the left is a Twitter tweet from Scott Gilmore, who just happens to be the house husband of Catherine McKenna, Trudeau's environment minister. Scott Gilmore, who writes for Maclean's magazine, who said, "Lay down with pigs, Chris," referring to Chris Alexander. "Lay down with pigs, Chris, you're going to get muddy." I saw 3,000 Albertans who are having a tough time. And the husband of the environment minister for Justin Trudeau, he saw pigs. He saw pigs. So what did we do wrong? What did we do wrong? Did we express ourselves too flagrantly? Too flagrantly or fragrantly? What did we do wrong? What should we be more like? What's the proper way to protest when you got 10.3% unemployment and your premier is bringing in the largest tax increase in a century? What's the proper thing to do? How polite do you have to be? Well, of course, I turned to the CBC for the answer. Let's see what the CBC has to say. Oops. No, I'm getting ahead of myself. There we go. I got to find my... Just finding my mouse here. Okay. Give me 1 second to unplug, folks. I'm going to plug right back in. They say I'm in the media business. They say I'm in the technology business. Little do they know. Yeah, that's right. Once you're under 40, you're allowed not to know how to use a computer. I'm kidding around. Yeah, that's right. All right, take a listen to this guy. He's telling you the proper way to protest.
I've been saying for years that our politicians should be thrown in the slammer for willful blindness.
Let me play that again, if I know how.
I've been saying for years that our politicians should be thrown in the slammer for willful blindness.
He's talking about global warming, of course. So David Suzuki, who is an activist, wants to lock people up who disagree with him. And not only is that not condemned, that's given a TV show for 40 years and countless $30,000 a pop speaking fees. So that's the right way to protest, guys. I'm just telling you what the media party says. But how about politicians? It was Chris Alexander who was up there when this chant happened for 20 seconds. I mean, he was an MP. How do other MPs react? Well, what does this lady say? "Oh, I'm having more problems." In the middle.
And Kinder Morgan will not be built as long as there's breath in my body. I'll fight this damn thing.
And you will go to jail?
Of course I'll go to jail. I'll block pipelines. I'll stand shoulder to shoulder with First Nations. This is not an issue you compromise on.
Lock her up! Lock her up! Listen, I'm kidding around. She hasn't done anything yet. She's just threatened to break the law, and that's always classy on a member of parliament making $170 grand a year, saying that she will go to jail, break the law so you don't have jobs. That's classy. I didn't see the CBC's The National do a lead story on that for 10 minutes when that happened. Maybe I missed it. But again, how about Rachel Notley herself? Because so far I've shown David Suzuki and I've shown Elizabeth May, but neither of them work for Rachel Notley. Is there any chance, is there any way to protest that Rachel Notley would accept that we all here could learn from? Well, I think there is, and I've got a couple videos for you. And I've shown them to you because I'm rather incompetent with the PowerPoint. Here's the next one. This is Rod Loyola. He is a Rachel Notley NDP MLA. And listen to him. I'm going to play it twice also. Oh, come on. Come on. Oh, I could use some help, Faith.
Wrongly brutality, wrongly the values that he stood for. Compañero Presidente Hugo Chávez.
I'm going to play that again. No, I'm not. That's Rod Loyola praising Hugo Chavez. Hugo Chavez was a thug, he was a dictator, he shut down freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, he banned labor unions that did not submit to his party. He is the cause of mass party. He's dead now, but he was a tyrant. He was a tyrant in the order of Fidel Castro. That's not beyond the pale for Rachel Notley. He proudly sits in Rachel Notley's caucus. And it doesn't surprise me. This is Rachel Notley's wristwatch that she wore until she herself became premier. You can see a close-up of it on the left. You can see it on her wrist on the right. And she's acknowledged this and has a good laugh at it. But 100 times a day for years, she would look at a picture of Che Guevara, murderer, for inspiration. 100 times a day. Imagine putting something on your wrist so important that when you look, every time you're reminded. She's brainwashing herself. That is acceptable for Rachel Notley, for her caucus, and for the media of this province. But when some unemployed Alberta men and women who are hurting chant jovially for 20 seconds to lock her up, that's deplorable. That's pigs, apparently. This here is Robin Luff, a member of the Legislative Assembly for the NDP from Calgary. She is holding a placard that says, "No more dirty oil." That apparently is okay to do at a rally. That will get you signed your nomination papers, and you can be an MLA. Now, I don't know how oil is dirty. There's no dirt in oil. Oil is oily, but it's not dirty. So she's stupid as well as a bigot, but that's good enough for Rachel Notley. I think what she really means is that the people are dirty. Because, of course, for decades, the NDP smeared this province, smeared this country to any journalist who would listen, and told them that it was dirty oil, when in fact we were the most ethical oil in the world, not just environmentally clean, but peaceful, and paying an honest wage, and respecting of human rights. What a disgrace Robin Luff is. What a disgrace Rod Loyola is. And yet you've never heard their names on CBC's The National, because unlike you, they have not been deemed deplorable by $1,000,000-a-year Peter Mansbridge, who never has to worry about being laid off, does he? Well, why on earth would someone countenance this? Why? Because she herself believes it. That is Rachel Notley on the left, and that is a poster on the right that was waved by one of her NDP protesters at a protest that she spoke at. And Chris, did she renounce it? Did she renounce this? She has not. To this day, she has not. No tar sands, no tankers, no pipelines, no problem. That is Rachel Notley's motto, and that is her policy. That is why she's bringing in a carbon tax. This wasn't a threat, this was a promise. Now, Faith, I might need your help for this next one. I want to show you a protest that happened recently about the Kinder Morgan pipeline. And Faith, I know, well, that's not working. This Kinder Morgan pipeline protest on Burnaby Mountain, take a look.
This one?
Yeah.
This one here. All right, guys, don't worry, we got this. How many rebels does it take to? Okay, hold on.
I can't.
Fucking don't touch me. Go back across your fucking line. Fucking cowards.
Anybody here ever seen that, other than on my show? Anyone ever seen that? No? One person? We got a room of 1,000 people? What? Three people? 3 people have seen that. Isn't that funny? The whole world is watching. No. There were a lot of cameras there, but the whole world wasn't watching, were they? Because I didn't make it to TV. The CBC was there, CTV was there, Global was there, everyone was there, including, that was the Sun News Network at the time. That's where we got the footage. But the whole world wasn't watching. Boy, I'd love to play that again. Garbage.
Fucking don't touch me. Go back across your fucking line. Fucking cowards.
Yeah, that guy in the white, for some reason they threw garbage only at the Sikh police officer, the guy in the white oval there. That was a mini riot. That was on Burnaby Mountain. You saw all the cameras there. They were chanting, the whole world is watching. Yeah, and every single editor and producer in the country threw that footage down the memory hole because they were on the side of those Kinder Morgan protesters. And David Suzuki himself attended with his grandson as the guest of honor at that protest riot. And these are the people telling you you can't have a jovial chant for 20 seconds because you're unemployed. This riot is normal and remains not only uncondemned but unshown to 99% of Canadians. You know who else was at that riot that day? This lady here who's writing this article. Her name is Karen Mahone. That's her being taken away. That's her being taken away by cops. She was a protester at an illegal riot. Rachel Notley this year appointed her to the Oil Sands Advisory Group. The whole world was watching. The whole world was watching, and Rachel Notley hired a protester from that riot to be on her Oil Sands Advisory Group. You know, this next thing here, and boy, I'm going to work hard to get this working. Here we go. You recognize those steps? That's the steps I was on with Chris and some of the others last week. These are the steps of the Alberta legislature. Let's hear, this is David Eggen, a cabinet minister for Rachel Notley. What does he have to say at an official approved NDP protest on the steps of the legislature?
Doing the right thing means that we have no new approvals for tar sand projects, no new approvals, 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 because...
So do you understand your place, my friends? Your place is to shut up and politely pay the carbon tax. Do not chant anything upsetting. But if you riot, if you chant no jobs, no new approvals, you may well wind up in cabinet. I want to play 2 more videos because, of course, it's not just Rachel Notley. Oh, boy, I wish I knew how to do this. Here we go.
Quebecers are better than the rest of Canada because, Quebecers are better than the rest of Canada because,
Well, hey, don't be so hard on them.
Quebecers are better than the rest of Canada because,
But that was when he was 30, so you can't be too harsh on the guy. He was just a kid. I think we should pay more attention to what he said when he was an MP, don't you think? Because, I mean, listen, every kid is an anti-Alberta bigot or something, I don't know. But how about when you're grown up and you're an MP and now you're pretending to be responsible after a life of being a trust fund, silver spoon, do-nothing baby? Well, I'm going to try and get this working.
Regardez, le Canada fait dur, mais moi, parce que c'est des Albertains qui contrôlent notre agenda communautaire et socio-démocratique, ça marche pas.
Est-ce que le Canada est mieux servi quand il y a plus de Québécois au pouvoir que quand il y a plus d'Albertains au pouvoir?
Ben, je suis libéral, alors c'est sûr que je pense que oui. Certainement, quand on regarde les grands premiers ministres du 20e siècle, les seuls qui ont vraiment tenu le coup, c'était des députés du Québec. C'était Trudeau, c'était Mulroney, c'était Chrétien, c'était Paul Martin. Alors, on a un rôle, ce pays, le Canada, est à nous.
You know, he hasn't given his aid to Fort McMurray yet, but he gave $25 million this month to Hamas. He gave $200 million this month to Iraq. He's about to give $1 billion to Bombardier. I keep telling my friends at Fort McMurray, Robbie, I said you got to rename that town Bombardierville if you want Justin Trudeau to care. Now listen, I think we smoked out some of the NDP dirty tricksters. You saw them earlier. I don't doubt there's more in here. I met a couple of them last time. They had planted some, as we did here, we had a no profanity rule. We had a no profane placards rule. But the NDP sent some folks, and you can see Nathan Rotman, the head of issues management for Rachel Notley, sent in people with placards, took photos of them, and then handed them out to journalists to smear our event as racist, sexist, anti-gay, anti-Semitic, white power, whatever. It's a lie. If you see someone doing it today, ask them who they are, ask them, and I have a $500 bounty for the ID of the people who did the trick last week, and if there's anyone this week, if there's an NDP dirty trickster here, I'll pay you $500 cash for their identity. If you're the NDP dirty trickster yourself, I'm not paying you. I don't want to lock anyone up, actually. What I want to do is I want to unlock the potential of this province. I want to unlock people who are handcuffed. I want to unlock the dads. Chad, I want the dads unlocked. Go back to work and provide for your family, Chad. And everyone here, whether you're in construction or hotels or restaurants or every other business that depends on oil and gas, I want to unlock them. I don't want to put more padlocks on their future, like a carbon tax. I want to unlock people. You can chant however you want. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to scold you. You got 10.3% unemployment in this city. I will not scold you if you chant in a way that Peter Mansbridge regards as inappropriate, or if you're insufficiently submissive to Rachel Notley. I will not scold you. But I know that Albertans are the best people in this country. And right now we're having tough times. And without further ado, let me introduce my dear friend who has crisscrossed this province to tell the stories of severely normal Albertans who have been scolded and told to shut up, but Sheila has been their voice. My dear friend, Sheila Gunry.
So first things first, I have to thank everybody for coming out here today. It's not warm outside. Everybody probably had to plug in their pickup trucks for hours just to plan to come here today. And I'm absolutely overwhelmed at the amount of you that showed up here today. It's well over what we expected, so give yourselves a round of applause. Now, I feel like I talk to you all individually when I make my videos from home every day, so it's a little overwhelming to see so many of you in front of me all at once. Usually it's just me and my cat. But I'm proud to see how many of you that have showed up here today who refuse to be bullied by Rachel Notley and the media, and you refuse to be bullied by their lies. So it was a little over a year ago that our Alberta insurrection against the NDP first started. It was on the steps of the legislature, and it was the very first of those Bill 6 rallies. Now, we didn't stop that bill, but we showed Rachel Notley that we would fight her until the very bitter end. And we showed her We showed her that nothing she would do to our jobs, our families, our farms would come easily to her. That she would have a lineup of Albertans fighting her every step of the way. So I guess it's fitting that we're back here a year later with the same old government dealing with the same old things. We're here to fight this time against the carbon tax, and we're here to fight back, and we're here to protect our families against not only a tax, but something that will kill jobs in every corner of this province. And back then, just like now, the media and the NDP called you names. They called you the anger machine. They called you Team Angry. They said your anger wasn't real, that it was manipulated, that you weren't bright enough to understand the issues, and you only had to listen just a little bit harder to Rachel Notley when she explained to you that what she was going to do to you would somehow help you. She said you didn't care about your employees. She said you didn't care about your farm kids. They said you were rural, sexist, bigots who just didn't care to be governed by a woman. Now look around you. Look at all the ladies in the crowd. Are you the sexist, racist bigots that Rachel Notley says you are? In fact, back then, one NDP MLA, an accidental legislator named Shay Anderson, even called those Bill 6 protesters the families who brought their children, their pet pigs, their ponies, their turkeys to our frosty rallies, the people who collected thousands of pounds of food for the food banks at their rallies. Shay Anderson called you people extremely violent and brutal. In a sea of new media set there to capture the lies, Anderson still lied, and the media still ran with that lie. And they're doing it again. All of you, from our rally last week and probably again this week, you'll spend the whole week being put through the wood chipper by the media, by the NDP, and even worse, some conservative politicians who say they will fight for you, but they will condemn you at the same time for not being polite enough when you protest the single largest tax hike in Alberta history. You're sexist, you're a bigot, you're a homophobe, all over again. You know what I think? When people are hurting, when they're desperate, decent people don't police their words. They help them. And right now, you guys, the hurt is only going to get worse. Did you know that Rachel Notley, before she's even taken a dime from you in carbon tax, has said that it's not enough? She wants more. She said her $30 a ton price on carbon dioxide, that's just the basement price. That's the basement price. It's not the ceiling. She wants to bring that up to $50 a ton. Her $30 a ton price, before it's even implemented, has claimed feedlot jobs, oil and gas jobs. Can you imagine what $50 a ton is going to do to your jobs and to our economy? Right now, the carbon tax will cost each Alberta family about $2,300 per year. That's hockey fees for your kids. That's new snow tires on both the family cars. That's 2 months worth of your groceries. Rachel Notley thinks she needs that money more than you, that she can spend it better than your family. Rachel Notley, lock her up. Clap, you deplorables, clap. I know, right? Sexist. Rachel Notley says we need this carbon tax because we need to be doing our part to fight global emissions. But you know what? The world did not elect Rachel Notley. Albertans unfortunately did. Lock them up. And now it's her job as our premier to help those Albertans get back to work, to steer us through this worst economic downturn in over a generation. Everything she has done has made this worse every single step of the way, and this carbon tax is just another thing to make it worse. So what I'm hoping this rally will do here today, like the one in Edmonton, is to put Rachel Notley's far-left extremist ideology on a collision course with reality. She cannot ignore us anymore. She can't ignore all of you. And we don't care what she calls us. She has... She has, to use her words, no social license to tax us this way. So I am asking Rachel Notley for once to do the right thing, for once, and listen to you, just listen to you, to all of us, the same way she listens to her friends in the environmental movement and the public sector labor movement.
She should make some better choices herself.
So I'm asking Rachel Notley to listen, to save Alberta jobs, to save our families from unemployment, to save us some money, and stop this carbon tax. Thanks, everyone.
Sheila Gunn Reid, she's the best. She's a fan favorite. She's a fan favorite, Sheila Gunn Reid. Outstanding. Outstanding. Sheila Gunn Reid, Alberta Bureau Chief. Now, we did have a speakers lineup, but I'm going to take the liberty of adjusting it because we have a speaker who has to race to the airport. So I am going to switch the speaking order slightly. Chris Alexander is a member of Parliament from Ajax, Ontario. Former member of Parliament from Ajax, Ontario, excuse me, and a former cabinet minister. He was a speaker at last week's Rally for Alberta in Edmonton, and I'd invite him to take the stage now in Calgary. Thank you, Chris.
Thanks, Ezra. Thanks for the invitation. Thanks for inviting all of us who are in this federal conservative race. I was proud to be in Edmonton last week. I'm proud to be with you here today. And next time, I will be wearing my pig t-shirt. Because everyone told me, not everyone, my wife wanted me here, but lots of people told me not to come. Lots of people back east, donors, establishment types, media, top brass, they're kind of warning you. They're saying, why would you do that? Why are you going back there? I'm not going to fold to a bunch of politically correct people. I'm not going to let them tell me what to say or what to think. And for everyone in this country, all of us in this room who lost their jobs, and I'm one of you, everyone in this room who is struggling to make ends meet, everyone who's worried about their next bills, everyone who is hurting and feeling that pain because of these unjust policies, I'm one of the many people in this country who've got your back. We are going to stand together. We are going to get this done. We are going to work hard together until we make it right. So this is where I need to be, and this is where every Canadian who cares about the future of this country needs to be. Because job creation is the most important issue in this country right now. The sad fact is that we have a federal government and we have multiple provincial governments that are exporting Canadian jobs. They're sending them abroad. Carbon taxes across this country are sending jobs elsewhere. Where are they going? We love Midland, Texas, but they shouldn't have our jobs. Venezuela, Mexico, Nigeria, Saudi Arabia, Russia. That's where Canadian jobs are going because of these job-killing taxes and policies. Are we going to stand for that much longer? It's not fair. It's not fair to us as Canadians to have governments that don't understand. It's not right when oil prices are down to adopt policies that make unemployment go up. They don't get it. Trudeau, Notley, Wynne, they don't get that higher taxes mean fewer jobs. They don't get that higher deficits mean less service, worse services. Not tomorrow, right now. You get it, we get it, we need those jobs, we need those better services, we need to get back on track. Ask my friend Sean. Sean called me this week from Alberta. He was at the rally in Edmonton. He lost his job. He needs a double hip replacement, as well as his job. Can't get it. Wait in line, he's told. Who's had that kind of problem with the health system in Alberta? We all hear these stories every day. There's only one way to fix it. We said it in Edmonton. Vote them out. 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 And I have one message for you. If they commit crimes, you got it. I have one message to you from me. There'll be others of my colleagues running for the Conservative leadership who've taken positions on this, but my position on this issue is very, very clear. No carbon tax ever. Let us get our products to market safely. Let's build all the pipelines that the market demands. Let's protect our beautiful wilderness, but let's do it without killing our economy. I would hate to see Alberta go the way of my own home province of Ontario. For 13 long years, you probably haven't seen the full splendor of this mess. But for 13 long years, Ontario Liberals have broken Ontario's advantage. We are a have-not province. Provincial debt has doubled. Electricity costs have skyrocketed. Manufacturing is fleeing. And even Ontario Liberals did not do what Notley's NDP is doing here. Imagine if we had taxed cars when the auto industry was on the verge of bankruptcy. Did we do that? We shouldn't be doing it here, and that's what's happening. The carbon taxes must end for good. We need to keep talking about this. We need to remember Sean's story. We need governments that are honest with us. They don't want us to know that carbon taxes don't even work, that they're regressive, that they hit the lowest income people, seniors, harder than anyone else, and that they don't reduce emissions. They don't do anything to make our energy industry more competitive or our environment cleaner. The mainstream media doesn't tell these stories, and they didn't care about our Edmonton rally until we gave them a wake-up call. And I got the message. You want to know that there's someone with the guts to take your message all the way. I want to be that messenger, and I'm happy to be deplorable. Just as I'll keep fighting for men and for women and girls who've been forced into marriage against their will, keep fighting to protect and settle Syrian refugees and to end that war, which is now a genocide. 500,000 people dead in Syria. What is our government doing? Withdrawing from combat for the first time in Canadian history when all our allies are engaged. This has got to change. We need a strong economy. We need a strong Canada in the world. I hope I can count on your support next May when you take that very important decision about who will lead the only federal party in this country that will stand with you against a carbon tax. Thank you for having me.
Thank you, Chris. We invited all of the Conservative leadership candidates to attend. We also invited the leaders, Brian Jean, Rick McIver, Jason Kenney. There are 2 MLAs from the Wild Rose Party we'll be hearing from. We will hear from 2 other Conservative leadership candidates. I'm going to intersperse them. I think that's a good idea. I'm going to now call up my friend from Fort McMurray, who was the most passionate diplomat, ambassador, promoter of his city I've ever seen. I've been in the pits, I've been in the mines, I've met the big shots, but Robbie Picard took me around as a Métis man who loves Fort McMurray, loves the jobs, loves the oil itself. And when I learned that his house burned down in the Fort McMurray wildfire, I was terrified. And of course, it was a tremendous setback for him, but it hasn't dampened his support for the North and for the oil patch in any degree. Let me call up, without further ado, a dear friend of mine, Robbie Picard.
Jess, you gotta go up. I need to look, the angle needs to look better. Last time I did my Facebook Live, I looked horrible. I'm not having it again. So, I wanted to kind of start off by talking about, in particular, why I'm here today, and why I flew here from Saskatoon, where I'm visiting my family. I was bothered because I spoke at the last rally, and I don't like what happened after. So I'm gay. In fact, there's only one person in the world that actually could make me go straight, and that's Sheila Gunn Reid. I think she definitely would be the cure for homosexuality. She's that good looking. But the rally was fair and open-minded, and they've known I'm gay for 2 years, and Ezra's been up to Fort McMurray. I gave him a tour, and I've been treated great. I said to them I try to be nonpartisan because I used to run the I Love Oil Sands campaign in Fort McMurray, and my role is to advocate for pipelines, and right now I believe we have a good shot about getting some pipelines. But before I get into that, I was bothered because on my Twitter there was a couple people from the crowd who had these signs, and I got attacked. Why would you speak at that event? And Ezra's so homophobic. You're lucky you walked out of there alive. And it reminded me of one of my biggest values, and I think it's a value as Canadians we need to remember, is loyalty. Now, Ezra's not homophobic. He's been really kind to me. And what I did is I doubled down. I went and I immediately, and I suck. Oh, by the way, please add me to Twitter, Robbie Picard. I only got 700 followers. That's not good. But I immediately doubled down and I put out a tweet saying I was welcome to be there, and that those people didn't speak for the rally. I certainly am not going to be bullied and told to shut up and not express my opinion because some people took 20 seconds a clip and tried to make that the entire part of the rally. So please give it to Ezra and Sheila for allowing the voice here. So I want to talk a little bit about almost 2 years ago, I was walking my dogs by the airport, and I saw this beautiful jet coming into Fort McMurray. And I looked up, and I'm thinking, wow, whoever owns that jet has a ton of cash. Can you guys guess who was on that jet that day? That's right, it was Leonardo DiCaprio. Now, you want to talk about irony. Here's the ironic part. And there's a lot of money in Fort McMurray. We all know that. I know people that own jets, all of them First Nations. And that's a compliment to them. I'm not slamming them. My point, though, is that the oil sands is the best thing that's ever happened to First Nations. But what I think was really ironic is some guy who's worth hundreds of millions of dollars, lots of fame, way more Twitter followers than I have, flies in on a multi-million-dollar jet to put his nose down on hardworking people, and then he acts like he's some kind of savior. He's like, I'm here for First Nation issues. Now, he's not stupid. He realizes that there's, I think it was 289 First Nations businesses that are hurting right now. He also had tours of their facilities, and the First Nations and the oil sands are an important relationship. Jim Boucher, the chief of Fort McKay, recently said these so-called environmental organizations are actually impoverishing First Nations people. And he's also sick and tired of how they're attempting to use them for their own personal gain. There's no excuse, there's not a coincidence that the United States has enough pipelines to go around the earth twice now. And what they've done is they've used the oil sands unfairly as a diversion tactic for all these years and slammed the very thing that feeds us all. But my question for Leo, if he was such a saint and a savior, and between his buddy's private yacht and his plane, where was he during the fire? He had a jet, that we know. Where was he when all of those First Nations had to be evacuated because our homes were all burning down? He wasn't around. You know what was around? Industry, WestJet. They are the ones that got planes and saved everybody's lives. So I think my ask of everyone today is, like I said before, I try to stay nonpartisan, but we do have a real big fight that's coming. And it's these so-called environmental organizations that are trying to shut us down. And when we speak, we can't be bullied. We can't be like, you can't take 20 seconds of a rally where all these people are concerned and that was the theme of the rally. It's not true. You know, I mean, for example, when Elizabeth May let out a fart in the House of Commons, Michelle Rumpel, she wasn't quiet about that fart. And I think it's pretty sad when a leader of a political party says she's willing to go to jail to stop a pipeline, you know, and so if I want to hear one lock her up, it's for Elizabeth May. Because I think it's deplorable that she would use her clout to attack the oil sands. And I don't really speak on carbon tax, but I was thinking over there, and I know Ezra's trying to herd me off here, but we are probably carbon negative, meaning that only 1% of the forest is used for the oil sands. That's all that's mined. And I was up in a helicopter actually with Kelly, and just before the town burnt down 2 days before, we were examining the massive amounts of touch boreal forest. So if the oil sands is only 0.15%, Canada is only 1.5%. Maybe we should rethink, and maybe the world should pay us because we're eating their carbon. Thank you.
Robbie Picard. Give him a follow on Twitter. Thanks, Robbie. All right, I mentioned that we have 3 candidates running for the Conservative leadership of Canada. We've invited all the candidates. I would like to now introduce the second candidate who flew in from her riding of Simcoe Grey. She is a former cabinet minister. Her name is Kelly Leach. Kelly, please come on.
How's everybody doing today? You don't sound all that excited, folks. Good grief. So, whether it be the CBC or media elites, those Ottawa elites out there, they said that real leaders would denounce you. I'm not going to denounce you. I'm not going to scold you. Last I checked, freedom of speech is a Canadian value. That's right, freedom of speech, people. And I've been standing up for Canadian values, and I know a little bit about people making fun of you and calling you names. And that's okay, because I don't plan to back down, and I know you aren't going to back down on Rachel Notley. Now you're calling for some actual leadership from Rachel Notley and from Justin Trudeau. Yeah, I know. And the CBC and media elites out there, they're saying that leadership means telling you what you should think. Telling you that you've done something wrong because you're law-abiding citizens, just honest, hardworking people. That's not leadership, that's elitism, right? Leadership is about understanding what you are all about. Leadership's about what you want to live by, how you want to live. That you're out there working hard so you can take care of your families and make sure Canada can be successful. And I can tell you, having grown up in Fort McMurray, that's exactly what I learned at the dinner table. Go out and work hard so you can give back to your community, give back to your country, and I know you are doing that every single day. And I understand why you're so anxious. I understand these challenges. Both my brother, sister, my father, our family companies in this province. We have family friends every day that are losing their jobs. We have family friends every day that are getting to the point where they can't put food on the table for their families. My sister, I know, thinks every day, which young little girl in her daughter's class should she be buying a Christmas present for, because maybe that family can't afford it. This has to end. This absolutely has to end. And that's the problem with too many of our politicians right now, too many of the elites in this country, some who are currently in government, some, unfortunately, who are in the Conservative Party that Brad and I are here representing today. They're too interested in telling you what they think you should think, and rather than understanding how you are thinking. You need to be heard. And even some of our colleagues are too afraid of what, these ultra-left Leap Manifesto folks are thinking, that they're actually too afraid to act. Well, I can tell you, I will be abolishing the Trudeau carbon tax the day that I am Prime Minister. A carbon tax, my gosh, how do we destroy resource development? Just destroy the rest of the Alberta economy. Why don't we just continue doing that? And it's not going to make your life any better. It's not going to make, in fact, it's going to make your life a whole much more harder, definitely more stressful. Carbon taxes, provincial or federal, carbon taxers. Last I checked, there's only one taxpayer. So when none of you have a job, who's going to pay? The pensioners? Like, really? How are we going to deal with this? And there's going to be more difficult days ahead. But we need to get back on track, and I know we will get back on track. Our resources, as I said, I grew up in Fort McMurray. It's something for us to be proud of. We should not be ashamed of them. And Trudeau and Notley, they simply don't get this. They don't understand the natural resources industry, and they don't understand you. I got to tell you, and you're right, they don't seem to care either. Our natural resources are a huge opportunity, and it's our duty to put them to work. It makes us stronger, more prosperous as a nation. It allows us as Canadians then to give back. Politicians just don't seem to understand that these days. And I know we're here in Calgary today, but I got to tell you, millions upon millions of Canadians are out there for you from coast to coast to coast. They're thinking about how they can help you, Albertans, so that you can get back to work. Know that there are people out there rooting for you. And I want to read you a small quote. It's from actually a premier in Ontario, a great Canadian by the name of Drew, from 1943. It is our humane duty to put the vast resources and rich land which God has given us into full productive use, not only for ourselves, but for the rest of the world as well. It is our opportunity to build a strength and prosperity with a population far beyond what we now know, living in greater comfort and security than we've ever known before. That is a vision which is justified by all the facts. It is a vision worthy of the sacrifice of our young men and women that they are making today. That is the future to which they are entitled. This is the future for which we are all entitled. Now, I think that Mr. Drew saw the future and how our natural resources are that source of prosperity for our country. You know, Ezra was talking about before how about the protesters and how Rachel Notley has embraced them, right? We saw. Well, I have a fundamentally different approach. I can tell you, I have a plan about developing our natural resources. 5 points. Increase penalties for those who engage in acts of violence or vandalism designed to disrupt natural resource. Number 2, ensure those who provide support for these actions are charged. They're the ones that should be locked up. Number 3, create a new force of specialized components of the RCMP, CSIS, CRA, DFAIT to coordinate investigations, freeze bank accounts, lay charges on those who would illegally disrupt natural resource development projects so they're brought to justice. Absolutely. Number 4, classify environmental lobbyists as a political activity to ensure that they are transparent. Transparency in their funding and get that international money out of the process. And number 5, realign Canada's regulatory process to ensure that Canada's ability to compete in the marketplace. This is a 5-point plan to make sure that our natural resources industry can grow. And that's what I'm going to do when I'm Prime Minister. We are going to build pipelines. We are going to make sure we build Canada. I will abolish the carbon tax immediately. And we're going to start building this country again. And I'm going to tell you, having grown up, as I say, in Fort McMurray, Alberta, my home here in Alberta, I understand what you're going through. I hear it all the time. And I am here to fight with you today and until this is resolved in 2018 with Notley and 2019 with Trudeau. Let's bring it on. So, thank you. I appreciate it. I look forward to working with all of you. And if you want to reach me, if you text 393939, that number, if you text no carbon tax, you'll be in touch with me, my plan, and my team, and I'd love to have your help. Merry Christmas, everyone.
Ms. Kelly Leach, thank you very much for making the journey here today, along with the 2 other federal Conservative candidates. I'm grateful for you being here. I said I was going to mix it up just to space out the politicians, so I'm going to call upon our Calgary reporter, Holly Nicholas, who's not just a great rebel, but she's actually from the oil and patch industry, or oil patch herself. Great to see you, Holly.
I can't believe this many people in Calgary are out for a rally. This is amazing. Thank you so much for coming. Most people know me as Holly, a reporter at The Rebel, but a lot of people don't know that I'm a geologist. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself. Last September, I counted myself among the over 200,000 laid off oil and gas workers out there. And I'm here to stand with Albertans and especially my fellow out-of-work colleagues against this carbon tax. I know what kind of effect it's going to have, and it's because another thing that most people don't know about me is when I entered the oil and gas industry, I was lifted out of poverty. When I was 23, I had a baby girl and found myself a single mom. But Alberta is the land of opportunity, and I went and got myself a degree to give us a better life. And so here I am. There were days... Thank you. There were days that I really did have to choose between buying diapers and keeping my lights on while I was going to university. And I know that this is what this carbon tax is going to do to Alberta families, because the NDP isn't telling us about the hidden costs of everyday essentials like groceries and services that businesses are going to pass on to us. A lot of people in Alberta aren't as lucky as me to have a job right now, and nobody ever talks about the socio-economic benefits of the oil and gas industry. We have hundreds of thousands of unemployed workers out there being pushed to the edge. The suicide rate is up 30%. Shelves at the food banks are bare, and people are walking away from homes and mortgages. Maybe the NDP can't control oil prices, but they do control policies like raising corporate taxes and implementing a carbon tax that are driving jobs and investments away and that are pushing people into that exact situation I was in with my 6-month-old baby, choosing between what bills to pay or worse. And the tax hasn't even been implemented yet. So what do you think this tax is going to do once it's brought in? The US won't be bringing in a carbon tax, so that means that we'll be less competitive, and companies and businesses will move their jobs somewhere else where it's more competitive. It's just that simple. We already have a model in this right next door in Saskatchewan. They'll out-drill us next year. And simply because the business atmosphere is more friendly, which means the NDP have created jobs for our neighbors. So imagine what a blanket carbon tax will do to Canadian jobs. They'll migrate elsewhere. Like I said, it's just that simple, and we're already seeing it happen right now. And while our jobs are flooding out of the province and creating more economic hardship for already struggling Albertans, the NDP has promised to throw a tax on everything on top of that. And every time I think about that, I'm brought back to that place where I'm deciding whether I should pay my electricity bill or heat my home. Whether it's moving jobs across the border when hundreds of thousands are out of work or putting an added cost on absolutely everything, this will be a reality for many families. I've been there myself. Has even one of Rachel Notley's policies prioritized the unemployed workers out there? Is it moral to push more families to the brink when they're already there? What about families that are struggling because mom or dad or both are out of work? No, the NDP haven't thought about those people that these policies actually work against. So that's why I'm here, to stand with you and to stand with Albertans, to ask Rachel Notley to get rid of this tax. And I'll keep fighting the NDP and standing up for Albertans on this tax, because I'm not just a reporter. It's personal to me too. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you. Holly Nicholas, everybody. Brad Trost is the third leadership candidate for the Conservative Party of Canada, and he has come in, and I beg your pardon, remind me of you, Ronnie, I apologize.
I'm from Saskatoon, but I'm coming from Winkler.
Coming from Winkler, he's from Saskatoon, coming from Winkler. Ladies and gentlemen, would you join with me in welcoming Brad Trost?
For those of you who don't know me, I was the guy that tweeted last week after this little thing was created in the news, that if I'd been in Edmonton, I would have been right there chanting with you. Now, as Ezra said, I'm from Saskatchewan. Now, sometimes in Saskatchewan, it takes us a while to learn our lessons. But we learned our lesson well. We finally have voted out the NDP, and unlike Alberta, we don't have a socialist government. It seems strange to say I'm from Canada's conservative heartland, Saskatchewan. For someone like me who grew up in an area that was known as Red Square, it is really strange. But for a few short years of my life, when I was way shorter, I did actually live in Calgary. That, however, was the time when the first Trudeau was in office. And he brought in something known as the National Energy Program. And unfortunately, we're starting to refer to it now as NEP 1. That's the scary thing. You know, it's strange, again, coming from Saskatchewan. 10, 12 years ago, before I was elected a member of Parliament, when I'm a geophysicist by trade. A farm kid who went out there and got himself an education because farming was awful. And I went and I worked in the natural resource sector. And you know what the industries that are going to be hit the hardest by this? Oil and gas, mining, and agriculture. And for those of you who have worked in those industries like I have, you know just how many rules there are on the environment, how well we take care of things. I remember when we have to pick up every little scrap of paper, and I'm a farm kid. No one takes care of the environment better than farmers do. But back when I was training to be a geophysicist, I always volunteered for the parties, for reform, for the Sask Party, went out there, and I would go into sometimes the MLA's offices when the NDP were in office. And they used to have a map about where the oil drilling and activity was in Canada. And if you're from Saskatchewan, you've seen this map. And you used to find it amazing. The geology went in a straight line. You would have drilling until you came up to Saskatchewan, and then amazingly the geology made it stop. Unfortunately, I think that map is slowly being reversed. And it's sad, because you are our friends and you are our family here in Alberta. And as much as we enjoy some of the business that's being sent our way, we know it's not good for Canada, because what's good for Alberta is good for the whole country. The Fraser Institute came out with some rankings the other day about the 96 jurisdictions in the world where you can invest in oil and gas. Alberta is down to 43 out of 96. Saskatchewan, with the free enterprise government, is number 4. And you know, we would be number 1 if it wasn't for a certain Mr. Trudeau in Ottawa. I'm working on the vote him out side. Let me be very clear. And again, I'm speaking to you not just as a politician, but someone who worked as a geophysicist. This whole climate change agenda is not science fact-based. It's based on the government. It's based on the government wanting to take away our prosperity and to take away our freedoms. If I am so honored someday to be Prime Minister, the war on oil and gas and coal will be over. That means no carbon tax. That means no cap and trade. That means no regulations that are there to strangle the industry. No if, no and, no but, no maybe. Now, along with my degree in geophysics, I also got one in economics. And unfortunately, I'm going to have to say some statistics here. Even if I can't read, I can count. Since Rachel Notley came to Alberta, 140,000 people, 140,000 jobs have been lost. Alberta's unemployment rate is now 9%. The unemployment rate in Calgary is closing in on 11%. And yeah, I know these statistics are probably out of date. Economists can be slow at times. But instead of giving people a hand up, our governments, both federally and provincially, have been giving people the boot. When times are tough, people need hope. People need encouragement. Yep.
Tyson, Dad, he's the one with the gray
And he'll probably be up here real soon, buddy. We're looking for someone's dad here, so. You know, what? Give that kid 20 years, he'll be up here talking about it. But you know what? Unfortunately, coming from Saskatchewan, I knew this is what you were going to get. You need to fight against the NDP, you need to fight against the federal Liberals, but let's be clear, this is fundamentally who they are. They believe in taxing and taking away jobs and hurting the economy because they have a different agenda. But one of the issues I have in politics, and one of the reasons I'm in politics, is not always so much because of who they are, but it's because I get frustrated about conservatives who run up the white flag, who say that it's more important to worry about little points of etiquette and to scold and to become part of the Ottawa bubble than it is to fight for their own people. I've lived in Calgary when people lost their jobs. I've lived in Saskatchewan when people lost their farms. You don't vote for people to back away from standing up for their people. You vote for people to fight for you, regardless of the time, regardless of the circumstance. That's what a true conservative leader should do. I'm not the most famous politician in the Conservative Party. I'm not the most famous in the country. But my constituents know, if I believe it, I will say it. If I say it, I will stand for it. If you want to know more about me, go to bradforleader.ca. Thank you very much, and God bless.
Ladies and gentlemen, Brad Trost from the riding of Saskatoon University. Thank you for being here. We're going to alternate politicians and grassroots folks, and I'm going to call on a friend next who I first met by watching him on a video on the Rebel.media. It was something it was one of those National Geographic moments of almost a vanishing species, I thought, an impossible thing. A counter-protester in Vancouver protesting against the anti-oil protest. So he was an anti-protester. He was protesting for oil in Vancouver. That is as rare as a unicorn, my friends. And he was so articulate and so passionate, and he had such a mane of hair like a lion. He immediately became a video sensation. His name is Bernard Hancock, but you might know him as Bernard the Roughneck. And I'd like to call Bernard up now. His is a story of inspiration, but it's also a story of heartbreak. And I look forward to hearing all of it, Bernard. Thanks for being here today. Good to see you. Good to see you. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for having me up here, Ezra. I appreciate you guys letting me come back on after a little fiasco. It's kind of a little bit tired. I might have lost my temper, but I think I was in the majority of Albertans who've also lost their tempers. And so today I'd like to talk. There's two people I'd like to address. The first people are the media. It was so frustrating for me to see, but it was predictable. I seen you guys, and you turned something that was innocent. Okay, look, I admit it might not be the most polite thing to say, but what you implied those people were about is shameful, and shame on you. of time. Let's save our vitriol for the news media, but, I mean... But you see, guys, this is a problem here because we're not an organized force, and you know they're going to do that every time that we do this. And I know it's not fair, and I know that chant was justified, although it might not be very couth. But I mean, the people who are at that rally that I was talking to, they're not professional protesters. Like, you go to Vancouver, where I'm from, you get all these old people, they're hippies from the 60s, you get university professors, you get all these young students, and these guys show up. It's the same people at every protest. But I saw those people last Saturday, and they're not professional protesters. These are people that are at their wits' end, and instead of addressing the reasons why this anger might be in place, you ignore them, shame them, call them stupid, deplorable, slack-jawed, and it's not right. And I hear all these people, I like to engage with my opponents, and I talk to them, and they say, oh, the rebel media is a problem. No, the rebel media is not a problem. It's a symptom of the fact that you guys don't do your jobs. The symptom of the fact... And you know, I'm losing my patience, guys. I'm losing my patience. Because it's like when I was over there, walking over there, I caught the eye of a journalist, and the first thing she did, you know when people attempt to smile, but like they kind of like, they let on what they really think about you, but they try and fake that smile? That's what you guys think of me. And the only reason that you're willing to talk to me is I got stupid hair, and I say things you don't normally hear. It's a carnival sideshow. But you know what? There's also all these people here. And because they don't have... You're too busy talking about Kim Kardashian being robbed in Paris and calling everyone that disagrees with you a racist to wake up and start doing your job and report the news. But they're not going to change. They're not going to change. Even after Mr. Donald J. Trump, and I'll reserve my opinion about that because whatever you do, it's divisive, but even after his election, you continue on in the same path that put us in this spot. You love to feed off division and feeding on the worst in human nature. The impulse to judge people because they disagree with us and call them bad people. And it's not right. And you know what? You wouldn't talk to me if I didn't have this dumb-looking hair. And it's like, it's frustrating because I'd knock on your door. I badger you guys. I'm a concerned citizen. But that isn't news. It doesn't generate ad revenue or clicks or likes or shares. And so
Let him have it!
well, no, I'm serious. I threw my shoe at the legislature. I'm about to throw my shoe at you guys. But you know how we fix this? You know how we fix this? The only thing that I've ever known to change a society's way of thinking is money. Money doesn't discriminate. Everyone loves the smell of money. And when you stop watching Global, CTV, City TV, stop watching them. You know what? I heard just a couple weeks ago,